Well, as the final few are making their way to their chairs, I want to welcome each and every one to this workshop. We are extremely happy that you have come, and we're excited about the number that are interested in the campaign. This is our second of 3 workshops for the Eliminate Projects fundraising campaign, and I and our consultant and others who have worked on this campaign are absolutely ecstatic about the opportunity to present to you today, and that you have shown the interest to take out your time to come and inquire as to being involved and taking our information back to your clubs. We're calling this workshop today, Making It Personal. We will provide you with 2 unique perspectives about how this project personally affects families around the world. You will hear from 2 individuals with a very personal passion to eliminate maternal neonatal tetanus. Dr. John Button, our campaign vice chairman, and Ms. Carrie Rhodes, a mother who has been personally affected by tetanus. But before we hear from John and Carrie, I would like to provide you with some information about the Eliminate Projects fundraising campaign. The Eliminate Projects fundraising campaign will raise $110 million to eliminate maternal and neonatal tetanus. Additionally, we know that this campaign can and will have a great effect on the Kiwanis family. There are several major strategic objectives for this campaign that will address not only the programmatic and fundraising goals, but also a key tenet of this campaign is to bring a benefit to Kiwanis. Most importantly, we want to help eliminate MNT, period. We are partnering with an amazing organization to do this, and adding our support to many partners who support the fight to eliminate MNT. And I want to take this opportunity to introduce to you our partners, UNICEF, who are sitting all around the room. Would you please stand? And let's give them their thanks and welcome. I specifically want to point out Cynthia McCaffrey and thank her for all the hard work. For a lot of you, you may not know this, but this is kind of a cutting-edge partnership that we have been involved in. And as we say many times in our meetings, we're riding the bicycle as we build it. And Cynthia's been a great partner and leader, and thank you very much for all your time and commitment. And by raising this $110 million, we will raise the profile of Kiwanis International, making us relevant in every single community. And we believe that it's relevance that drives results. We will forever be known as the organization that eliminated maternal neonatal tetanus. Thus, through our success, we can expect to see an increase in membership. In fact, we're already seeing that. We're seeing this in the Kiwanis Club of Cape Coral in Florida. And we invite you to come to our workshop tomorrow at 10:30 to hear directly from the Cape Coral Club at our next workshop, and they will tell you the stories and how their membership is being increased by their activity in the campaign. We will also strengthen Kiwanis' giving culture and relationship between members and the Kiwanis International Foundation. Kiwanis International Foundation will strengthen and build upon its mission, and this will result in a platform for future funding, for increased grants, and for philanthropy that could be also involved with your district foundations and your club foundations. Finally, there is nothing more powerful for setting us up to achieve success in the future as being successful in the present. Thus, we want to be prepared for our next endeavor, by achieving this goal, raising $110 million, and eliminating this unnecessary disease through this very, very important campaign. The Eliminate Project's fundraising campaign is about the world's poorest women and babies to eliminate a deadly but preventable disease. We have another opportunity to change history. We as Kiwanians tend to approach any initiative with full enthusiasm and creative ideas. So here are some immediate ideas for getting involved now. We hope you come to the third campaign workshop tomorrow at 10:30 to find out more about what you and your club can do. We will provide overviews of the campaign and an update about the activity already occurring all over the world. Here are a few initial ideas to begin thinking about for you and planning your involvement in the campaign. As an immediate goal, you can consider a personal gift to the campaign. A few larger challenges for you would be to help recruit what we call model clubs and identify what we are calling 100K clubs. Not only are we calling them 100K because that means $100,000 being raised, but you also know that our 100th birthday is 2015. So it's very fitting that we celebrate that birthday by giving this gift of $110 million. And as I've mentioned, during that third workshop, you're going to hear more about our first 100K club. And the model clubs are clubs that have pledged to raise an exemplary per member average of $750 by fundraising early and often. Now, I'm sure some of you may say $750 per member. We're talking about a 5-year campaign here. And if you do some quick math, as I have done, you will see that $750 over 5 years is less than 40 cents per day. And I hope that after you hear this workshop today, that we will pull on your heartstrings enough to see that this may be worth 40 cents per day. So this will be a great opportunity for you to get ideas and examples to take back to your club at the workshop tomorrow. You can work closely with the campaign staff and get to know our district coordinators, which will be here tomorrow as well. So by working together, we are convinced that we will eliminate maternal neonatal tetanus. And speaking of a personal gift, this is a personal opportunity for all of us. We all have the opportunity to help others right now. The time and the place is right now. And whether you know it or not, now is forever. I know for me, I am personally connected to this campaign. This opportunity continues to transform me, and I am confident that it will transform you if you will let it. I know I'm not alone. The Eliminate Project has already affected so many of us, particularly the two speakers with us today. Their presentation and their stories demonstrate the urgent need to eliminate maternal neonatal tetanus, and do it now. I now would like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. John Button. John began his service with Kiwanis as a member of the Ridgetown District High School Key Club in the 10th grade, and that was only just a few years ago. And he has since served the organization at nearly every single level. Currently, John is on the team as the campaign vice chairman. He is a trustee on the Kiwanis International Board, and he is a champion of causes that impact the health and well-being of children. It is truly an honor, and it has been a daily privilege to serve with John on this campaign. And I am confident that in just a few short minutes, you too will find his passion engaging. John shared with us at our initial training that he had a grandfather that says that Kiwanis sees out of the eyes of its heart. made me recall a quote of Thomas Jefferson that he said, "When the heart is right, the feet are swift." And I now help me to introduce to you and welcome Dr. John Button, whose feet are swift. John?
Thank you, Randy, and good morning. I am grateful to Randy for giving me an opportunity to reprise my presentation from yesterday. But he told me on the second time I'd better get it right because there won't be a third time. More importantly, I'm grateful for an opportunity to share with you why I'm here this morning. I would like to introduce to you Bryn Matthews, who was born on February 25th of this year, weighing 3.42 kilograms or 7.2 pounds. By an accident of geography, Bryn was born healthy and her neonatal period was uneventful. She was born at St. Joseph's Hospital in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Her mother had been immunized against tetanus. The birthing room and instruments were clean and sterile, as were the delivery techniques. She was delivered by a highly skilled obstetrician and birth attendants. I am so blessed. Bryn is my granddaughter. On Tuesday this week, she weighed in at an even 16 pounds, but more importantly, she had her second tetanus shot. As I wind down my practice and look forward to my retirement at the end of the year, I have begun to reflect on my career that has extended over 3 decades. And I am drawn to my blessings and my disappointments. I have brought hundreds of babies into the world, and I have been blessed that I have never had to worry about maternal and neonatal tetanus. My mothers had all been immunized. The birthing rooms and practices were clean and sterile. And I must say the obstetrician wasn't that bad either. Several times over the years, I've been disappointed by new parents who choose to deny their infants routine immunization, including tetanus vaccine. I have seen the horrific pictures and videos of babies dying of tetanus, and I conclude that the denial of newborn babies' tetanus immunization is child abuse. That millions of babies around the world are not protected from tetanus is no less. The U.S. Fund for Tetanus, the U.S. Fund for UNICEF, I did it again, Debbie. The U.S. Fund for UNICEF has called our victory over IDD one of the greatest public health achievements of the last century. Millions of children the whole world over now live lives of hope and promise. We have added billions of points to the world's collective IQ. We did change the course of history, and when we eliminate maternal and neonatal tetanus, we will have done it again. Every year, 8.1 million children under the age of 5 die of preventable illness. 41% of these deaths occur within the first 28 days of life. In many areas of the world, tetanus is one of the chief causes of these premature infant deaths. And although medicine has made great progress, we have made the least progress in maternal and neonatal health issues. There is no more joyful event in the life of a family than the birth of a child. In days, however, tetanus can turn those tears of joy into tears of anguish and grief. Tetanus is a cruel and swift killer. It kills one newborn baby every 9 minutes, and one family becomes motherless every 20 minutes. Every year, 59,000 newborn babies are tragically killed by this preventable infection. 25,000 new mothers suffer the same fate. Tetanus is an infection caused by the bacteria Clostridium tetani. This bacteria is found in the soil, animal feces, and decaying matter all over the world. It is introduced into the body through wounds that occur during the birthing process. Once inside the body, the bacteria rapidly multiplies and produces a toxin, a poison, that specifically attacks the baby's nervous system, making it exquisitely sensitive to all external stimuli: sight, sound, and touch. Any stimulus can cause the baby to have excruciatingly painful and prolonged seizures, seizures that in some instances can be so severe and so violent that they tear muscles and break bones. Curative treatment is rarely successful because it is difficult, expensive, and in developing countries, wholly inadequate or just not there. In this situation, a hypersensitive nervous system, the kindest treatment is the saddest treatment: sensory deprivation. The baby's eyes are covered and cannot see the look of concern in a loving mother's eyes. The baby's ears are plugged and cannot hear the tender murmuring of a caring mother. And most tragically, the baby cannot be touched or cradled in a mother's loving arms. In most cases, the baby dies. This baby, so recently a child of great promise and the embodiment of a family's hopes for the future, dies a sad and pitiful death. A death that is recognized as one of the most painful deaths known to man. The baby dies in the dark, with the only thing it hears being its own heart-wrenching cries, and the only thing it feels being the pain of its seemingly endless seizuring. The baby dies alone, and nobody should die alone. The baby, in most cases, was born in the dirt, it dies in the dirt, and is buried in the dirt. Maternal neonatal tetanus is a women's rights issue. It is a marker of poverty and health care inequity. Its victims come from the poorest, most marginalized populations living in underserved and hard-to-reach areas. They live at the end of the road, if there is a road. They do not have access to clean and safe birthing facilities and practices due to poverty, poor hygiene, geographical constraints, illiteracy, and cultural practices and beliefs. In sub-Saharan Africa, 59% of all births occur at home. In Asia, that number rises to 62%. It is a fundamental woman's right to be able to protect her unborn child through her pregnancy and have access to clean and safe birthing facilities and practices. In many cases, this will require the abandonment of some traditional practices and beliefs. In areas where tetanus is endemic, often the final act in the birthing process is to treat both stumps of the umbilical cord with cow dung. In the Sudan, neonatal tetanus is called the blackbird disease because it is believed that the illness was caused by a blackbird roosting on the roof of the hut at the time of the baby's birth. The great tragedy of maternal and neonatal tetanus is that it need not happen at all. The United Nations calls the ongoing tragedy of maternal and neonatal tetanus a silent scandal. We have had the tools to end this scandal for years. Research discovered tetanus vaccine in 1897, and it became widely available in 1924. With just 3 shots costing approximately 60 cents apiece, we can offer those in the developing world what we have taken for granted for decades. Previously, or newly immunized pregnant women pass their immunity on to their newborns. This passive immunity will last for the first 2 months of life, after which government-mandated and UNICEF-supported immunization programs kick in and take over. If we could rid the world of the Clostridium tetani bacteria, we could eradicate the infection. But we cannot eradicate dirt. We can, however, eliminate tetanus. Elimination means less than 1 case of neonatal tetanus per 1,000 live births in all areas in a country. The key to elimination is immunization and access to clean birthing practices supported by education. Once again, Kiwanis has partnered with UNICEF. We have history. This partnership has had an immense impact around the world. A memorandum of understanding defining this partnership was signed several weeks ago in New York by representatives of Kiwanis International, the Kiwanis International Foundation, the U.S. Fund for UNICEF, and UNICEF. UNICEF does not go into a country unless it is invited. They have the feet on the ground and, more importantly, the organizational skills to carry out this massive immunization program. We Kiwanians are 600,000 strong, and we bring to the project our fundraising skills, but more importantly, we bring our commitment, our passion, and our enthusiasm for protecting and saving the lives of children. We Kiwanians are the final push. Here you can see the range of maternal and neonatal tetanus in 2001. This is the range of maternal and neonatal tetanus in 2008. And I draw your attention to the changes in Africa, Asia Minor, and the Indian subcontinent. This, my fellow Kiwanians, will be our gift to the world.
Thank you, John.
But I'm done.
Now you can finish. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I was just getting you some applause.
Our partnership with UNICEF is unbeatable. We have momentum. Kiwanians reach people and communities. UNICEF reaches those who live at the end of the road, the forgotten. What do we need to do? We need to raise $110 million to immunize and protect mothers and their future unborn babies. Maternal and neonatal tetanus is a silent scandal. The Eliminate Project is about helping the world's most vulnerable at their most vulnerable time. We cannot get rid of the tetanus bacteria. It is everywhere. But we can stop it from killing newborn babies and their mothers. And I know that we will. While you have been listening this morning, 2 more babies have just died of tetanus. And 1 more family has been left without a mother.
Thank you. Before I introduce our next speaker, we have a video we want to cue up. And while Lindsay is doing that, yesterday during the opening session, I shared with you a quote from John Calvin, and I want to repeat that because some weren't in that opening session. And he once said, "All the blessings we enjoy are divine deposits committed to our trust on this condition, that they should be dispensed for the benefit of our neighbor." I know that that's a long quote and it's kind of difficult to get your hands around without seeing it, but in South Texas, we shorten that to, "You Kiwanians and I have been blessed to be a blessing." We live in a time of transformation, and it's not often that man is given an opportunity to fulfill his or her purpose on this earth by participating in a cause that will literally change the course of humanity. Kiwanians, we have been favored to make a long-lasting significance and given a path to that fulfillment. And it's a great opportunity for us to do that. We truly are honored today to be joined by someone who makes the fight against tetanus more personal than anyone I have ever met to date. Her story will absolutely captivate you. Her commitment to eliminating maternal neonatal tetanus will inspire you. Carrie Rhodes is a mother, a donor, and a true advocate for this campaign. We are honored that Carrie has agreed to share her story with us today. I've also asked that the Eliminate Project's campaign director, Tiffany Lake, join Carrie and serve as Carrie's interviewer. So if you would, please welcome Carrie Rhodes and Tiffany Lake.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you. Well, we are just so excited to be here today. Carrie, thank you for, can you hear me?
Get that sound up.
Can you hear me? Closer, should I eat this? Okay, okay. Well, Randy, thank you so much for that introduction. And Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today, coming all the way from my hometown, Seattle, Washington.
It's my pleasure to be here today. I'm excited to be able to be here with my two wonderful daughters, Danny and Lily, and two other members of our family, Mary and Arti. The Eliminate Project is a unique and wonderful opportunity that's really very special to our family, and I'm glad that I can be here to share our story.
So, Carrie, you and I, we've talked about your experience with global health and your commitment to children's issues. Can you tell us how you first got involved with global health and children's issues?
Sure. First, when I was excuse me, in high school and college, I served as a volunteer health worker in Latin America, and then as a nurse, I worked in India and in China, and I traveled to many places and worked on many different issues, including running vaccination clinics, particularly vaccinating women against tetanus in Latin America. And it was really just an amazing, all of my trips were an amazing chance to see and to help and to learn about some of the issues around the world. On my first trip to India, I saw many women, I was working in a women's clinic, and I saw many women deliver their fourth or fifth babies, baby girls, and they start crying on the delivery table, knowing that they would have to get pregnant again to try for the son that they needed, that their families needed. I spent a lot of my time there talking with these women, holding the babies, cooing and fawning over them, and hoping to help the mothers fall in love with their babies and find some joy in their beautiful daughters. And often, when I would go to return the babies to the mother-in-laws in particular would say, no, you keep her. And I would say, no, but thank you. But it had me thinking that my dream of becoming an adoptive mother at some point was even more important, and had me empathizing amazingly with these women and their children and the struggles that they face.
So during these experiences, when did you first become introduced to tetanus?
After about 4 months in India, I went to China, and I was working in the Children's Hospital in the city of Tianjin, which is one of the largest cities in China, and an amazing hospital that's known through the country for its great care for children. And it was on my third day in the hospital, one of the other nurses was walking me through the newborn ward and telling me about the children there and their cases. And she was telling me about some of their families who travel from all over China to come to this hospital, and they'll bring their babies, and then they have to go home to work and earn money to come back to pay for the children's care and to bring the children home. And sometimes they come back months later, and sometimes they don't ever come back because either they don't know that the children will survive or they can't afford to care for them. There are, of course, many reasons there. But as I was listening to these stories, we came to one crib where there's a tiny little baby who was 2 months old, and the nurse was telling me about her story, and that she had come to the hospital when she was 10 days old. And they had just, a few days before I was there, they removed her feeding tube, and she was able to nurse from a bottle finally. And as she was telling me about this baby, she opened her eyes, beautiful brown eyes, and she smiled at me. And I fell in love. And I knew that Lidan and I, the baby, were meant to be a family.
How did Lidan get there?
Her birth father brought her to the hospital when she was about 10 days old, and she was born at home, they probably used a dirty knife to cut the umbilical cord, and she'd been suffering from agonizing convulsions. And she had lockjaw. She hadn't been able to nurse for 3 or 4 days when they brought her in. Convulsions that just shook her, and she couldn't be touched. She was in just horrendous pain, hungry, weak.
And you told me that her parents, that they assumed that she had not survived. Is that right?
That's the nurses told me that while they were hopeful that she would survive, although even with proper medical care, only 4 out of 10 babies survive.
But she did survive.
She did survive. But for her birth parents, who were uneducated migrant workers, they most likely assumed that she wouldn't survive.
So, pretty amazing story. Her parents weren't able to bring her to the clinic in time.
They were very fortunate. I was very fortunate. She was very fortunate to be born so close to an amazing hospital where they had the proper care, and the proper medications. And
that's an amazing story. She had the hospitals had access to the right vaccinations. Yeah. She survived this experience, and 3 months later, you met her, and she was now able to feed again.
She was able to feed. She was able to smile and enjoy life. She was 2 months old. It was just 2 months. And she was tiny still. She weighed less than 4 pounds when she was brought to the hospital, and she hadn't gained much weight when I met her. But she was doing well.
That's great. And you learned that she had suffered neonatal tetanus, and you told me you made a phone call at that point.
So while I made several, I've started adoption proceedings, and I called my grandfather, who was a neuropathologist, and I called our family pediatrician, and asked what are some of the things I should look for that I should be aware of as far as residual effects of tetanus. And they both said to me, tetanus? Nobody gets tetanus. What are you talking about? And then they did a little research for me. But they were so shocked because nobody in the States has tetanus. It's completely unheard of. But with their research, they found that the only issues perhaps would be if, as John said, she had some spinal fractures in the convulsions. And fortunately, she didn't suffer any of those. So she was able to make a full recovery.
And so you made a big decision in your life.
I did. I had always planned to adopt, but probably not at 24. But Danny still has a way of changing my mind about things.
That's a pretty amazing story. That is pretty amazing. How is Danny doing today?
She's doing just fine. She's right over here.
Hi, Danny. Thanks for joining us. She's mocking us right now.
She laughs at me whenever I get teary. So, but she's doing amazingly well, and I'm incredibly proud of her. She plays volleyball, soccer, basketball. She skis and snowboards. She doesn't ski anymore, sorry. She snowboards, and she sings, and she dances. She clearly doesn't have any spinal injuries.
Clearly.
She's starting high school in the fall, and she works for animal shelters in our community, volunteering and helping the animals.
So she must have liked meeting Jane Goodall.
Unfortunately, our flight was delayed, and we weren't able to. And it was quite a disappointment.
Yes. Well, if there's anything that you could say to our audience today, any one thought that you could leave our audience with, what would that be?
As John said, today, 60,000 babies and 30,000 mothers die every year from maternal and neonatal tetanus, a disease that's 100% preventable. We know how to save them. All it takes is the commitment, the funding, the will. All it takes is you, us, working together. And I'm so grateful that Kiwanis has taken on this project. Maternal and neonatal tetanus, the senseless death of babies and mothers, has been an issue close to my heart, clearly, for years. But since the disease hurts the most vulnerable people in the world, most people don't know about it. And it means the world to me. It truly does, that Kiwanis is putting their time, energy, and money towards eliminating this disease. And you're working with UNICEF, an absolutely incredible organization that does amazing work. I'm thrilled that Kiwanis and UNICEF are changing the world, ensuring that kids like Danny live, and that mothers, like Danny's birth mother, don't have to watch their babies suffer and die. Thank you.
Would you mind sharing with us your commitment to the Eliminate Project?
Sure. I know that Danny went through unimaginable pain 14 years ago. And when I gave birth to Danny's little sister, Lily, 8 years ago, a healthy 8-pound baby who I could hold and comfort and feed, I could finally begin to understand the pain that that Danny's birth mother went through, unable to hold her child without having her scream, a child who was starving, but she couldn't feed her, a child you're sure is dying, and there's no way to hope, no way to help her. No mother should have to watch her child suffer like that. And so, in honor of Danny's birth parents, my daughter mocks me, but in honor of her birth parents and of so many other parents, too many other parents like them, I've established the Lee Wong Fund, named in honor of Danny's birth parents. And our family has committed to donate and raise at least $1 million to fight MNT, to protect women and their new babies from tetanus.
Wow, I'm supposed to be the one that doesn't cry. Thank you so much for your commitment. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. We truly are blessed by you being here and be willing to share your story with us. It's obvious your passion is tremendous, and we thank you for that. You truly are making a difference, and your gift will make a difference in this room as well. And we can't thank you enough. Thanks. So now we're going to open it up to you for questions of Dr. Button and Carrie. So if you could make your way, if you have a question, make your way to the microphones in the middle.
Carrie,
We will entertain those questions now.
Okay.
I can't see, but
Randy.
I know somebody's there.
Oh yeah, I was right on it. I was waiting for your cue. Sue Fleschner, and I am representing the Kiwanis Club of Bowling Green in the U.S. And Carrie, thank you so much for your heartfelt story and for that amazing contribution from your family. Very inspirational for all of us. So thank you for that. One of the things that the Bowling Green Club has been doing is traveling around our district and talking about MNT and trying to get other clubs on board with that. And you just brought up something in your story that I have a question about that was kind of new information, and we hadn't really thought about it, and I anticipate this as a question. And you mentioned that 4 out of 10 babies survive, and so I'm just wondering, Carrie or John or Tiffany, Randy, what do we know about what makes the difference? What's the difference between the babies that do survive versus those that don't?
Access to antibiotics, access to medical care.
So within the hospitals or within the community where they are, if they can get some immediate antibiotics for immediate treatment?
That's as long as the hospital has the antibiotics.
Absolutely. Good.
That is definitely one thing that we saw and learned on our site visit to Cambodia that is hard for us to comprehend. And when we talk about the immunizations, and we miss the point of they don't have access to health care. And it really brought home to me my story of my daughter and her first birth. If we didn't have health care here, my granddaughter would be dead because they had a complication. We are very, very favored by having the healthcare system that we have. And when you go see in these other countries, these far-reaching countries, that they are 3 or 4 hours away and they go into labor. So it's not just the immunizations that are important, it's getting them that birthright and that opportunity to get to a clinic and to a facility that prevents those complications. And in Danny's case, a perfect example.
So, and I have to apologize, I did misspeak. It's babies who receive treatment. Of those babies who receive treatment, 4 of 10 survive. If you don't receive treatment, there's no survival.
Great.
Is
Thank
there?
you.
One of the things we saw in Cambodia was when they're immunizing the women, and you'll see the pictures in the closing session tomorrow, they also do an educational forum, and they do it by pictures because these young women cannot read. And the simplest of things, I saw a piggy bank in one of the pictures, and I went, what is that for? And they have to even teach them how to save money to purchase and pay for transportation to get to the clinic. And so it's that elementary, so that goes into the campaign as well, and that's part of what we're providing with our funds.
Thank you. And Danny, you're beautiful. Thank you for joining us.
Sue, before you sit down, I would like to thank the Bowling Green Kiwanis Club for being one of our first model clubs. And I have told my friend Bill Harrigan, who's a member of your club and your campaign chair, that $88,000 isn't too far from 100.
And I bet Carrie's story just raised it to 100, right?
100K Club.
Okay, next.
I'm Larry Levine from the Monterey Kiwanis Club in California, in the U.S. Thank you all for your wonderful presentations. Our club is different from Bowling Green. We're just learning about the Eliminate project here. Haven't done anything yet, and my job is to go back and get people interested. Is it John? Is that right? John, I had a question for you. You talked about how the purpose of the campaign was both to raise the money to do the vaccinations and to do education to change the conditions and improve the cleanliness of childbirth. And I realize as hard as it is to raise $110 million to do the vaccinations, it's probably even harder to change the cultures in these communities around the world. I guess my question for you is just to clarify, if a woman either before pregnancy or during pregnancy is vaccinated, will she and her babies be protected even if they're subjected to these traditional practices of buffalo dung on the umbilical cord and ash and all these other things? Or are they still susceptible to some rate if the conditions don't change?
The easy answer is yes, they're protected. That being said, you want to make sure they got a good catch from their vaccine.
A good
catch, that the vaccine did what we want it to do.
Okay, and do you know that? Do you test that, or is that just happenstance, or?
That's an underlying belief that it's going to work, and that's been what our experience is.
Okay, thank you.
I'll use that as a commercial that most of you in this room, your tetanus vaccination has expired. And you might want to look into going and getting your booster. If you haven't had one in 10 years, you need one.
Dr. Khan says tetanus vaccines are one of the most effective vaccines. Okay.
Other questions?
But doesn't mean it's 100%.
Dwayne Nemai from Rome, New York, and we've been fundraising already. But my question, for the 3 shots, it's a series. How long between each shot, and what if the mother skips one or only has 1 shot and can't get the money to get there to get the second shot?
If she skips one, she has still a good chance of being protected. Under ideal circumstances, we'd like to give them 2 months apart. However, there are circumstances where we can give a hurry up as well.
Good. Thank you.
While anyone is making their way for the next question, one of the things we hope to present to you in this workshop is that each one of us has a story of our own. What we're trying to do is to show you how you can create that touching moment for your club and for your fellow Kiwanians and your community, so that you can convey to them the story of this campaign. And you don't necessarily have to be a medical doctor or actually be on the ground and see what's happening in far remote places. To some extent, yes, John shared the medical expertise, but he also, if you'll notice, included his personal story as well. And and it's very difficult for a lot of us to, for tetanus to be relevant, and because you haven't seen it, you haven't experienced it, so what we are doing and going to be doing in the campaign, and you've seen already some of, one of the stories that we can all get in touch with and is relevant is that connection between mother and baby. And you definitely have a story that I think if you will spend some time thinking about it, can be developed that could be used for your work in this campaign. And in fact, we've provided you a place to start. In your seat is a worksheet that we provide to you, and you can also access this online as well, that asks you to share your story. And we would like for you to, at the end of this workshop, spend some time contemplating on it, since it's fresh on your mind, what we have said, and take it with you and continue to work on that, long plane rides home maybe. And I think you'll be surprised to really get in touch with how favored you have been and how blessed you have been, and develop that into a story that you could possibly use on this campaign.
Randy, before we go to the next question, I believe Dr. Kahn would like to add to my last answer.
You're absolutely right about the space between the doses. For 3 shots, between the first and the second shot, you have to give a gap of at least 4 weeks. If you go beyond 4 weeks, that's fine, but the minimum gap needs to be maintained. And between the second and the third shot, the recommendation is 6 months between these 2 doses.
I will follow that up with one of the things we saw Cambodia was it's one thing just to give immunizations, but when you realize what they have to go through, the vaccine must be kept chilled at a certain temperature, and there is no electricity in most of these places, and there are no forms of transportation, and it's very, very difficult. And then to go back each time and then have the same people come, it is a logistics nightmare. But we were given assurance and saw it firsthand of how UNICEF is a trusted partner that knows how to do their work. And they are performing this most difficult task in a most difficult circumstance. And you can feel assured that the technicalities of this campaign and the solution has been well thought out. And to anticipate another question that we've had before is they enter into agreements, whether it be with governments, and it changes from country to country, but this is an entree into developing a health system that either the government and or other funds are going to maintain, or they already have those committed, so the sustainability of the program goes beyond our effort in 2015. Question, front microphone.
Well, thank you, John and Carrie, for all your work in this project, and I think you just answered the question I had. Was the question I had, my name is Frank Ebner, I'm from West Covina, California, the Kiwanis there in the United States, and I was just wondering how the sustainability would be after the funds for this generation of mothers and children was taken care of with the vaccinations in terms of the next generation of the vaccinations. So the agreement is of course vital with the governments and the nations that are included, in the education, of course, is vital as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I've been watching too much TV, I guess. In the back.
Okay. Randy, Dennis Williams from McKinney,
Yes.
Texas. Welcome here. My question is for you, actually. I went through with the IDD program, and you've made a lot of great strides in educating us on this program and taking time to implement it properly and get the information out there. And the more information we get, the more we get behind the program. Reality is, when I go back home, I know my club's going to say, how much are we looking for each member of the club, and when have we reached our minimum goal? The answer should be, just keep on giving. But I know that we did have back then a dollar figure that we put towards each member, which would have made that figure. Have you looked at that for this project, something we can convey to them to get them energized, and then we can exceed that goal?
We have looked at that, and there are many different ways in the numbers. I won't get into the details of the numbers, but let me just tell you from the model of what we're building that will deliver that information. One is all of that information will be ready for you when you get home, when you go to the eliminateproject.org, and we have, the Central Resource Data, Campaign Resource Data, and there's information at the booth of how to access that, and in fact, information has gone to every club president that has submitted their name and email into Kiwanis International, which we have learned is not every club, but those who have will get that information as well. But in addition, and here our main piece is the number 9,000. And that's, we will have very shortly 9,000 Kiwanians trained, starting with myself, the 3 vice chairs, then we broke the world into 12 regions, and we have 12 regional coordinators, and those 12 regional coordinators are in charge of 48 district coordinators, and then those 48 district coordinators are in charge of about 150 multi-division coordinators, and those multi-division coordinators will be in charge of several hundred, close to 1,000 of division coordinators, and those division coordinators will be in charge of a coordinator in each and every club in Kiwanis International. Every month, those levels are going to have phone calls with each other, and tasks, and not only tasks and goals and so forth are being set by the local community. We're not doing it from on high and telling you what to do. We're teaching them how to do it, and then they will be the soldiers that will get that done and do the communication and then flow that information back up. At the same time, we're going to flow back down the information of the fruits of your efforts. What's happening with your money and where is it going real time? And you're going to hear periodically what is happening and where it's happening, where you can share those successes. We will also work with them to build a local media campaign process, a grassroots media, which not only will be good for this campaign, but it'll be good to expose Kiwanis. There's many things that are in this campaign that are being built to leverage and leave legacy into the Kiwanis organization that can and will be used for many other things that will give you value, raising dollars, and for increasing your membership, and that will then in turn bring money back to your community and give more hands to do service, etc. So does that start answering?
It starts.
And Randy,
Yeah,
I'd
it's a
add
start, and in our district conventions, you'll hear more about it. Every district convention coming up in August and on, there's going to be a lot more detail that will be flowing out.
And Randy, I'd like to add to that a little.
Sure.
We, at the Eliminate Project booth, you'll pick up, I recommend picking up the recognition flyer package. In there, we have outlined different opportunities to encourage individual gifts at, we call them impact donors, that give $350, $650, all the way up to the Zeller, which we saw handed out or provided yesterday at $1,250, all kinds of levels. And really what we're asking clubs to do is, individual giving is just one aspect of what we call a comprehensive method of fundraising for a campaign. And the comprehensive method means, one, of course, individual giving, but two is we're asking clubs to start doing fundraising events to the culture that is relevant for each club. We're also asking clubs to consider club treasury gifts. If you have a foundation, maybe a foundation gift. And you also have the opportunity to reach out into your community and secure gifts from local corporations and foundations. So this comprehensive method, instead of just having one person give, let's say an average gift of $500 or $1,000, we're really looking for a whole comprehensive method where you can customize the plan according to what works best in your club.
And you know what?
Thank you.
The best fundraising project is? Membership growth. The more you grow members, the more money you're going to raise.
You know, you actually, the last 5 minutes or 2 minutes of the seminar, the title of the seminar was Fundraising Facts. So I thought perhaps you were going to have some down and dirty, quick ways to fundraise, you know, that perhaps have been successful in some of the model clubs. So I was just a little confused about the title of the seminar, Fundraising Facts, and you just gave us some quick
There's some quick and dirty facts for how to raise funds, but I think the most important thing about fundraising is understanding what you're advocating for, right? And the facts about eliminating M&T are probably right now the most important things you can do to share with your club is, this is why we care. Let's tell Carrie's story. And these are the facts about eliminating M&T. Let's share John's story. And this is why we're here and why we're committed to that. But in addition, we're so excited to give you some detail. Additionally, tomorrow at 10:30, we will have many of our presenters talking about, here's what's working in our club from all over the world. And so that might be something that you would enjoy. John?
I will say, too, as you know from what I've said before, tomorrow is a lot of detail on that. And I will confess that I apologize for the confusion. The program was printed about 2 months ago, and needless to say, things change as we go along. And but we do believe that what we did cover today is the core of getting to the fundraising. It's that touching the heart that we must do.
Randy, if I could just add, the key to successful fundraising is enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And the four most important letters in the word enthusiasm are IASM, the last four letters, which stands for I am sold myself.
Cool. One last question.
Randy, we had Ron Gardner from the Kiwanis Club of Ann Arbor, Michigan. We had a delightful discussion last night.
We did.
And you can count on our support again.
Great.
Just like the IDD project, we will be there.
And what will be announced tomorrow is that they've committed $100,000. That's what.
Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. My question is, are we going to see any national advertising on television for this Eliminate project in the States?
Before this 5 years is over, I'll jump out and say, yes, you will. As Kate over there goes. In fact, you may see something a lot sooner than that. Okay. Well, again, thank you all very much for coming. I hope that you walk away from this workshop inspired and encouraged to begin your efforts for the Eliminate project. I want to leave with you just a final thought. In Cambodia, what I saw in my story is a real dominant theme of hope. And what we're going to try to learn is how to convey that to you, of that hope that we see out there in those remote areas. And it's this hope, it's a hope that transforms. And it's transforming those villages. It's transforming those people and those countries. And it's a hopeful anticipation that is being certain that your life and your future are in the hands of someone who loves you unconditionally. And I know each one of us have experienced that hope. And what you can do is transfer that part of a story and that part of how you got hope, and be able to build that into your story to your club and to convince them to get behind this campaign. So thank you very much for coming and giving us your time.